There's a liquid that costs $1 sitting in almost every hardware store in America, and it kills carburetor clogs so completely that mechanics actively pray you never find out about it. Not Seafoam, not the $40 bottle of professional fuel system cleaner, not the $300 ultrasonic cleaner the shops use, a $1 liquid. And it doesn't just unclog your carburetor, it strips it down to bare brass at the molecular level, dissolves every speck of varnish, and leaves the internal passages cleaner than the day they rolled off the assembly line. If you've ever paid a small engine shop $180 to rebuild your carburetor, what I'm about to tell you is going to make you sick, because they didn't rebuild anything. They soaked it in this liquid for 20 minutes, charged you for 2 hours of labor, and handed it back. And the reason they don't want you to know is simple. The small engine repair industry in the United States alone is worth over $7 billion a year. Every lawnmower that won't start, every chainsaw sitting in a garage, every pressure washer that died after one season, that's their business model. A $1 fix would destroy it overnight. They didn't hide it because it failed. They hid it because it worked too well. This isn't new. The Romans used a primitive version of this same compound to clean bronze fittings on their aqueducts. In World War II, mechanics in the Pacific Theater used it to keep aircraft carburetors running on contaminated fuel. There are field manuals from 1943 that document the exact procedure. Industrial chemists in the 1950s perfected the formula, and then somewhere between then and now, the knowledge quietly disappeared from consumer awareness, while the price of the professional alternatives quietly climbed. Here's what's actually happening at the chemical level. When gasoline sits in a carburetor for more than 30 days, the lighter hydrocarbons evaporate, and what's left behind is a sticky, varnish-like residue. Long-chain polymers that bond to the brass jets and aluminum passages. Most cleaners just dilute this residue. This $1 liquid does something different. It breaks the polymer bonds completely, converting the varnish back into a soluble form that washes out with water. The brass underneath is untouched. The aluminum is untouched. Only the gunk dissolves. The industry's whole model depends on you not understanding that. They sell you a $12 spray can that's 90% propellant and 10% the actual active ingredient, then charge you $40 for a premium version that's the same chemistry in a fancier bottle. The markup is somewhere between 20 times and 50 times. You're not paying for chemistry, you're paying for branding. If you've made it this far, you already know more about your small engine than 99% of people who own one. So let me show you exactly how to do this. Step by step, the way it's actually done. Start with the outside of the carburetor. Before you remove a single bolt, blast every visible surface with compressed air or carb spray, the throat, the linkages, the bowl seam, the bolt heads. This is the step everyone skips, and it's the single biggest reason home rebuilds fail. The moment you crack the carburetor open, anything sitting on the outside falls straight into the internals. A grain of sand in the wrong passage will undo every other thing you do today. Now drop the float bowl. There's a 10mm bolt on the bottom. Back it out and let the remaining fuel drain onto a clean white rag. Watch the rag carefully. If the fuel soaks straight in, you're dealing with pure varnish. But if you see clear beads sitting on top of the fabric like water on a freshly waxed car, that's water in your fuel system, and you've got a separate problem to solve before any of this matters. The main jet is where 90% of clogs live, and where 90% of people destroy their carburetor in the first 30 seconds. It's a small brass screw in the center of the bowl tower, and brass is much softer than the steel of your average flathead. If your screwdriver doesn't fit the slot perfectly, the brass will strip on the first turn, and the carburetor is scrap. The fix almost nobody does. Take a cheap flathead, put it on a bench grinder, and grind the tip until it fits the slot exactly. Snug, no wiggle. 2 minutes of work saves you a $90 carburetor. Once the jet is out, push the main nozzle, the emulsion tube, out through the throat from the top. If it's varnished in place, don't pry it from the side. You'll bend it. Use a small, easy-out tool and pull straight up. The pilot jet sits on top of the carburetor and pulls out with needle-nose pliers. The holes in its side are smaller than a strand of hair. Test it by spraying carb cleaner into one end. Fluid should shoot out through every tiny hole on the side in a clean spray pattern. If even one is blocked, the engine won't idle. Clear it with a strand of wire from a bread tie, or better, a welding tap cleaner. Don't widen the hole. Don't drill it. The diameter is calibrated to the engine's exact fuel needs. Now the internal passageways. Spray carb cleaner into the air intake holes on the choke side and watch the venturi, the narrow throat in the middle. You should see fluid shoot out through the tiny ports inside the venturi wall. If nothing comes out, the internal galleries are blocked. And this is where soaking the whole carburetor body in the $1 liquid for 20 to 30 minutes does what no spray can will. The carburetor body itself is riddled with drilled passages you can't see and can't reach with a wire. Only the soak gets into them. When you pull it out of the bath, every gallery will run clear in a single test spray. That alone is the difference between an engine that starts on the first pull and one that never quite runs right again. Now the light test. Hold the main jet and emulsion tube up to a bare bulb, one at a time. You should see a perfect circle of light through every hole. If even one is dark, clear it with wire or a welding tip cleaner. This is the step that decides whether the engine runs perfectly or runs rough for the next 10 years. Next, the needle valve seat, the part most home mechanics don't even know exists, and the reason most successful rebuilds end with fuel pouring out of the overflow tube. Take a fresh Q-tip, dip it in carb spray, and gently rotate it inside the brass seat where the float needle rests. Do it 3 or 4 times with a clean side each pass until the cotton comes out white. Never use anything metal. A single scratch ruins the seal forever. Finally, scrape the float bowl and sediment cup until they're bare aluminum. Hold the bowl up to the light. If you see any film, any discoloration, rinse again. On reassembly, the main nozzle goes back narrow end first. Getting it backward will run the engine lean and eventually burn a piston. The main jet is where everyone breaks the carburetor at this stage. Snug it with your custom-fit flathead until you feel it stop, then add maybe 1/8 of a turn. Brass strips at almost no torque. Snug, not tight. Snug. Now the math. A small engine shop charges between $150 and $250 to do exactly what I just described. Do it on a riding mower, a generator, a pressure washer, 2 chainsaws, and a leaf blower over the course of your life, and you've handed them somewhere between $1,500 and $3,000 for 30 minutes of work and $1 of solvent. Multiply that across every household in America, and you start to understand why this knowledge got buried. And the shops know something else most owners don't. A carburetor cleaned this way every 2 years will outlast the engine it's bolted to, which means the same $1 of solvent prevents almost every "the mower finally died" moment that sends people back to the showroom. Factor in that a new replacement carburetor for a Briggs & Stratton or a Honda GX runs $45 to $120, and a new mower runs $400 to $3,000. And the real lifetime savings aren't at $3,000. They're closer to $8,000 once you count the equipment you didn't have to replace because the carburetor never failed in the first place.